Hello again, my name's John. I'm a retired cook from the northeast of England in the UK, and welcome to another one of my bread videos. In this one I'll be making these delicious ciabatta bread rolls. This recipe yields 8 good sized rolls, but you can increase the ingredients to make more in the same time frame, providing you have the oven space. And once again I'll be using the Poolish or sponge method. And if you're not familiar with that, I'll explain as we go. And here's a list of the simple ingredients needed to make this fantastic bread. There's only 4: flour, water, salt and yeast. And these ingredients also include the measurements for the Poolish. Okay, a Poolish, sponge, bigger, starter, whatever you want to call it. It's a pre-ferment, meaning setting away a mixture of flour, water and a tiny amount of yeast and letting it sit for a few hours before making the bread, usually in the fridge overnight. Using this method greatly improves the structure, texture and taste of the bread, and it also gives the bread a longer shelf life. Okay, I'll start the Poolish by adding 200 grams of water to a bowl from the main ingredients list. Now I use digital kitchen scales to measure all of my ingredients, as it's the only way to get exact measurements. Next I'll add the 200 grams, that's 7 ounces of flour, also from the main ingredients list. And the final ingredient for the Poolish is the 1/4 teaspoon of instant or active dried yeast. And to show you how little this is, I weigh it on my jeweler's scales. 1 gram, that's all you need. It'll also be a good idea to test the yeast before you start the recipe. I have a yeast test you can perform on my sandwich bread video. I'll leave a link in the description box below. Okay, give that a good mix, make sure everything is amalgamated. Right, once that's done, cover the bowl and get it onto the top shelf of your fridge. Now the reason for the top shelf is it's the warmest part of the fridge, so it retards or slows the fermentation down to a steady rate, and it's that slow fermentation that gives this bread its fantastic flavour. Right, and after 12 hours sitting at the top of my fridge, this is what it looks like now, all bubbly and ready to start making some fantastic bread. Now pour the remaining water from the ingredients list, which should be 200 grams or 7 ounces, into the Poolish bowl just to loosen it up as shown. For this recipe I'll be using my stand mixer. If you're not using a mixer, just combine the remaining ingredients with the Poolish. That's the rest of the water, flour and salt. Give it all a good mix, cover it and let it stand for 2 hours. That's the only way you can do this without a mixer. With the mixer this will take about 5 minutes. Right, I'll add the combined water and Poolish to the mixer bowl, followed by the 300 grams, that's 10.5 ounces of flour, and the last ingredient, the 8 grams, that's 1 teaspoon of salt. Okay, with the paddle attachment on, I'll start the mixer off slowly at first for 1 minute. And just out of interest, I'll set the stopwatch to see exactly how long this will take to form the dough. And while that's going on for the first minute, I'll quickly lightly oil a wide bowl. I'll need that a little later. Right, after that minute I'll switch up to the next speed for a further minute. And after that minute has elapsed, I'll be switching up to the next and final speed, which on my machine is number 4. And once the dough starts releasing from the sides of the bowl, it's ready to go on to the next step. What's happening here is the gluten strands are forming and bonding together, accelerated by the motion of the mixer. It's kneading the dough, in other words. For those without a mixer, the same is happening in your dough, only at a much slower rate. And there it goes. Once it's all released from the sides of the bowl, I can stop the machine and then transfer it to the oiled bowl I prepared earlier. And that only took 4 minutes 40 seconds. Now for safety reasons, switch off the machine at the wall socket and clean down the paddle with wet hands. You don't want your fingers in this thing if it's accidentally switched on. Right, whether you spent the last 5 minutes mixing the dough or the last 2 hours waiting for the dough, we're all at the same point now. And the next stage in making these ciabatta rolls is to let the dough rest and rise for 2¼ hours. But it needs to be turned and knocked back a couple of times, so I'll set the timer for the first of 3 45-minute rest periods. Right, the first 45 minutes are up, and with wet hands give the dough 5 or 6 turns, but make sure you have plenty water on, or this dough will stick to dry hands. Just copy my technique and you'll be fine. Now cover the bowl and set the timer away for the second 45 minutes. And like the Poolish, these 45-minute rest and rise periods are very important for the structure, texture and flavour of the bread. Okay, the second 45 minutes are up. Just do exactly the same and turn the dough a few times with wet hands. This is mainly to knock the dough back and distribute the temperature evenly throughout the dough. And I expect you'll be glad to hear this is the last time you'll be handling this wet dough in the bowl. Right, I'll cover that and set the timer away for the last 45 minutes. Okay, while waiting for the dough to rise, I'll get a couple of things ready. Starting with the baker's couche. All this is a well-floured piece of material to proof the ciabatta rolls on. I use a 100% cotton pillowcase for mine. It's a lot cheaper than the proper baker's couche material and it does exactly the same job. Next job is to flour the work area. Try to arrange this so it's next to the couche cloth. It's just so you don't have far to transfer the dough to. Okay, once the last 45 minutes are up, I need to get it out of the bowl without touching it, as I don't want to knock any of that gas out of the dough. And the best way is to tip the bowl upside down and let gravity do the work, as shown. Just simply hold the bowl a couple of inches from the floured surface for a few seconds and simply let it flow out all by itself. And there it goes, easy peasy. Now this is a high hydration dough, 80% in fact, so it's a very wet dough. So to shape it you'll need plenty of flour on. Don't be afraid to use it, as any added flour at this point is only external and can be simply brushed off after the rolls are baked. Right, once shaped into a rectangle with the scraper, I'll eyeball it into 2 pieces. Then I'll divide each of those pieces into 4 rolls. Use the scraper to help move each one over to the couche. Once you get a roll completed, fold up the cloth as shown to support the rolls. This is why bakers use a couche, especially with wet dough. If you just laid these on a baking tray to proof, they would just spread out and you'd end up with flat pancakes. Don't worry about them being perfect shapes. Just get them as close as you can. At the end of the day, these are homemade and not mass produced. Once all the rolls are tucked up nicely on the couche, cover them with a dry, lightweight cloth and set your timer for 20 minutes. Okay, when there's about 10 minutes left, set your oven to 230 degrees Celsius, that's 450 degrees Fahrenheit or gas mark 8. I'm setting mine to 210 Celsius because mine is fan assisted and it runs approximately 20 degrees Celsius hotter than indicated on the dial. Just after you turn on the oven, place a pan of hot water on the bottom shelf. This will create a steamy atmosphere in the oven, which will make the ciabatta rolls crispy. Now these ciabattas are traditionally baked on a stone, but most people don't have one of those, so I'll be baking my rolls on the underside of a couple of baking trays. Turning these trays upside down just makes it easier to slide the rolls on and off, as you'll see a little later. And to transfer the rolls onto the hot trays, I'll be using my homemade peel board lined with parchment paper, but you can buy these fairly cheaply online. And you can, however, use a heat-proof cutting board lined with parchment paper, like I did in my ciabatta loaf video. Here's a short clip from that video to show what I mean. Sorry about the steam. Okay, the 20 minutes are up and it's time to get these into the hot oven. Right, remove the cover cloth and carefully lift them over to whatever peel you're using. I can get 4 at a time on my board. You should be able to handle these quite easily, but be as gentle as possible. Right, I'll carefully but confidently slide the first 4 in, and then I'll quickly get the door closed while I load up the second 4. Once they're all safely in the oven, I'll give the inside a few quick sprays of water. This will make the ciabatta rolls even crispier. Right, once the door's shut, I'll set the timer for 18 minutes. I would normally swap these around halfway through for even cooking, but the trial run I did on these the other day, they were fine, so I'll just leave them as they are. Right, the time's up, so I'll slowly open the oven door to avoid a blast of steam and check to see if they're done. These could do with a little longer, so I'll get them back in for a further minute. Okay, I'm happy with these now, so I'll take them out. If you want yours a bit darker than this, just give them a little longer. Notice how much they've risen since I put them in. This is called oven spring, and that is caused by the carbon dioxide gas and alcohol that the yeast produced while it was fermenting during those 45-minute rises. And that gas expands with the heat in the oven. And that's why you get those classic bubbles in ciabatta bread. And don't worry about the alcohol, that's burnt off during the cooking process. And it's been about 10 minutes since I took them out of the oven, so I'll cut one open and let you see what they're like on the inside. And there's that classic ciabatta crumb or bubbles I was prattling on about a few seconds ago. All I've got to do now is get some of my homemade butter on and give it a try. And like the caption says, if you want to know how to make this butter, I'll leave a link in the description box below. Okay, all I can say about this bread is that you have got to try it. This is without a doubt one of the tastiest breads you'll ever eat. It is seriously good. And of course, it gets a thumbs up. Well, thank you again for watching. Please like, share, comment and subscribe by hitting the circle above. If you do subscribe, activate the bell icon next to the subscribe button on my channel page. And by doing that, you'll be automatically notified every time I upload a new video. And in the meantime, here's a few of my other videos and playlists that you may want to watch. So, until the next time, be safe in the kitchen and bye for now.